afternoon and Happy New Year. Welcome to the first edition of Education Telescope for this year 2023. It is nice to have you back in the studio with us. In the first segment, as usual, we will be reading the news articles concerning education in Nigeria. I am your host, Mariam Rabiu. And in the second segment, an in-house analyst in person of Henry Hemba will be joining us to discuss a topic about the outcry over hike in tuition fee in some universities, in which we will discuss more on that topic. But for now, here are the news updates. Tuition hike. Nance writes Buhari begs for intervention. The National Association of Nigerian Students has expressed strong opposition in the alleged plans by federal universities in the country to increase by 200% their tuitions and various other charges from this year. Nance urged the President, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, to, as a matter of urgency, intervene and stop the plan before it degenerates to crisis in the nation's ivory tours. A survey across some federal universities in the country also revealed that some universities had announced a hike in fees. Meanwhile, Nance has called on the federal government to increase the funding of the education sector through other means instead of depending on fee hike. The association said the government had the constitutional responsibility to provide affordable education for its citizens and as much must adopt other sources to fund the sector. Federal government unveils 50 new textbooks for tertiary institutions. The federal government has unveiled 50 new textbooks published by Nigerian authors under the sponsorship of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund for tertiary institutions. The Minister of Education, Malam Adamu Adamu, spoke during the public presentation of the textbook, noted that the publications would end the dominance of foreign academic materials in the nation's education institutions. Represented by the Minister of State for Education, Honorable Goodluck Nana Opia, Adamu said over time Nigeria's tertiary education institutions became dependent on books published outside the country, with the attendant consequences of the heckling processes and unfavorable foreign exchange rates. The minister, who commended TED Fund for the publications, challenged the agency and authors to also produce books with nation's indigenous languages. Also speaking, President of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, Comrade Emmanuel Osodeke, who described TED Fund as a brainchild of the union, lavished praise on the agency for transforming the nation's higher education sector. The ASU president called for increase of education tax from the current 2.5% to 10% to enable TED Fund mobilize more funds to totally address challenges confronting the sector. Candidate with biometric issues to write JAM exam in Abuja. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAMB) says candidates who experience biometric challenges at the point of registration would write their examinations in Abuja. In the recent edition of its bulletin, JAMB said candidates who encounter biometric troubles during their registration process will complete it at its headquarters in Abuja, where they will also write their exams. The board reiterated its "no biometrics, no exam" mantra for all candidates taking the 2023 UTME. It stressed that there would be no offline exemption of flight mode registration. JAMB said all the accredited centers have been empowered for real-time online registration, directing prospective candidates to register at only partnering centers or JAMB offices across the country. The board said any candidate who ignores this directive would be unable to complete their registration. NUC Boss tasked professional bodies against unhealthy competition with the Commission. The Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission (NUC), Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid, MNI, MFR, FNAL, has advised professional bodies to desist from unhealthy competition with the NUC over the training of undergraduate students in the Nigerian university system. He said this last Tuesday when the Commission played host to the president of the Institute of Chartered Chemists of Nigeria, who was on a courtesy visit to seek collaboration with the Commission to rejuvenate the teaching of chemistry in Nigerian universities. Professor Rashid informed the institute that it was the responsibility of the NUC to lay down minimum academic standards for all academic programs in the NUS, give approval for the establishment of new academic program, as well as ensure that quality was maintained in terms of teaching, human and material resources of the programs through accreditation. He disclosed that the Commission has continued to open its door to professional bodies for collaboration in line with its mandate of leading the way of ensuring quality university system that works for Nigerians. The NUC scribe also noted that chemistry was the driver of the 21st century industry and that no country in the world today could thrive without viable and productive chemists, adding that if Nigeria must survive the competitive world, it must re-engineer the chemistry profession in line with global best practices as it remained the bedrock of revolutionizing the industrial sector of the country. And the last news for today is NYSC seeks review of corps members' allowances. The National Youth Service Corps NYSC has called for the review of allowance that is being paid to members of corps members amidst the current economic situation in Nigeria. NYSC Acting Director General Mrs. Christy Ifeyinwa Uba made the request during a courtesy visit by the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, in Abuja. Uba stressed that the corps members are eager to participate in the election. On his part, Yakubu said that the country cannot conduct conducive elections without the support of the corps members, especially now that new technology are deployed. Uba described the meeting as timely, stressing that NYSC is committed to the partnership with the Commission. She said, a lot has been achieved. The corps members are ready, the youth are very interested, and it is expected that everyone that is part of the committee will go back and cross the T's and dots in the I's. Also, she also said, and I quote, I want to say that NYSC is committed to the partnership with INEC. We have come a long way and we cannot go back. A lot has been achieved. She noted that in the preparation for the 2023 general elections, the NYSC has taken the following steps. And I quote, we have directed state coordinators to encourage corps members to register on the INEC portals. Corps welfare and health service in the department is expected to visit the state to assure corps members and staff of the commitment of the INEC and NYSC of their safety while on election duties. This is to further encourage them given the situation we have found ourselves in this country. And that is all for today's news update on education. Let's meet in the second segment where we are going to discuss about the hike in fee. We'll be back after.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is the second segment of Education Telescope on Leadership TV. And as I said earlier, an in-house analyst, Henry Hemba, will be joining us to discuss about the outcry over hike in tuition fee in some universities. Hello, Henry.
Thank you, Mara.
Happy New Year.
I wish you the best. Thanks for meeting you.
Thank you. We've had the issue that there's an outcry over hike in tuition fee in some universities. Apparently, the federal government, is it federal government? Let's say federal government.
Let's say the federal
The
universities.
federal universities want to add more money to their tuition fee. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, the federal universities, let me not say they are not, that want to add the university. They have, some of them are already in the process. Some of them have come up with a memo demonstrating that the school fee has been added. And universities, if students will need to pay the school fees for academic calendar, which will commence by maybe some of them after election, some because most of them are in the process of writing examination. And I think this is an issue that is important to the Nigerian student, not only to the Nigerian student, but to the parents alike, because given the harsh economic situation in the country, it is going to be affect so many things in the country, given the fact that most parents are not working. Some of them,
Yes.
even those that are working, the federal government recently said it's going to increase the salaries of students, but it has the following day, the Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige, denied that it was not salary increment but allowance increment. That means the salaries of these civil servants are now going to be increased. And I think this is coming at a time that Nigerian students are facing a lot of challenges, given the fact that they have just they are struggling to recover from the effect of the academic staff university strike, which lasted for over 9 months. Some of them are still struggling to even pay the rent. Some of them are struggling with so many challenges, and another bigger issue has come up that they are going to address. And I think this is something that the federal government need to intervene. The universities themselves need to reconsider the stand, because this is the first time we'll be hearing that Nigeria institution will be increasing fees to over 200%. I think
And
this is something too big for the student to
yes,
bear.
it is because the reason why parents prefer their kids to go to federal universities is because the fee there is not as much as once a private university. So now if the federal universities increases their fee to 200%, then there is no difference with private university anymore. And as you already said, some parents are retired already. They manage it. Should I say their pension? They use their pension to pay for their kids in federal universities. So now, if they increase the fee by 200%, what is going to happen to the Nigerian students in federal
I think
universities?
the implication of this is that most of them they are already losing out on the whole scenario already,
Yes,
and most of them will consider dropping out of the school,
exactly.
because some of them, if you come across some of this, some of them are struggling to pay these schools for
Mhm.
themselves. Even their parents that are sponsoring them and don't even have any reasonable job to
Yes.
pay. So if this thing will persist, they may have no other alternative than to consider dropping
Mm,
out of the school because they cannot cope.
they
For
can't.
instance, university that were paying 50,000, for
Mm,
instance, as for last semester, are going to be paying about 150.
mm,
A case in Eastern is a University of Kefi,
mm.
a Federal University
Federal
of Kefi,
university. Okay.
and we also have a University of Maiduguri. These are some of the University of Oyo, some of the few federal universities that have already announced the fee increment in public, and students will have to pay times three of what they were paying
Times
before.
three.
A student who is paying 50,000, for instance, will have to pay about 150 to
150
200,000.
years.
So why do you expect this student to get this money? This is one of the reasons why academic staff union universities ASU has been making case for improve funding
Hmm.
in universities, so that the university themselves will be able to address some of the challenges. But now the federal government has failed to address some of these challenges over the years, and the universities may have no other alternative than to increase the fee, so that because they have their own personal challenges which they are being faced with. So I think this is one of the ways that the university feel they should add the fees so as to address some
Hmm.
of the challenges. But at the end of the whole thing, who are the people who are going to face the consequences will be the student. It's not even the
Yes.
government or the
It's
lecturer
not.
themselves.
Yes.
So I think it's something that the federal government will need to intervene and solve the situation.
Thinking we're even trying to fight the number of out of school students, thinking of bringing them back to school. Now they are trying to take some out of school because the high price in fee is a very let me use the word dangerous. I'm sorry for using the word dangerous because it's very dangerous in the sense that children have to drop out of school. Because let me say, for example, a school that pays okay, as you already made example, a school that pays 50 before, let's use 200%, let's say 150.
Yes.
Then that's just for the fee. How about their feeding and accommodation and other things in school? We have to look at all these things. It's not just about the fee. You have to look at the well-being of the children also. So I'm sorry, I'm just like Harry.
So
I'm weak actually. Let me use the word weak because
no,
it's actually
seriously, it's something that we need to sympathize
yes,
with the student,
we
because
need to really talk
me
about this.
personally, I have contact with so many of them, and I know what they are passing through. I know what so many of them
Mhm.
are passing through, and they cannot cope with this situation. For instance, the National Association of Nigerian Students have come out in bold to condemn the fee increment.
Yes.
And let me say that this is the first time, personally, I'm experiencing this kind of fee increment in the country,
Yes.
because there has been increment over the years, but highest you will come to understand that some universities or federal government universities will increase like 10%
Yes,
fee, which
10.
will just a minimum of what students have been paying before. But increasing fee to over 100%, and you do expect
200%.
everybody know the reality, the economic realities in the country at the moment. So where do you expect the student to get those monies and pay these school fees? Is something that all Nigeria will need to intervene and ask the universities and the federal government themselves.
And most of these students in federal universities are paying their school fees themselves. I think you said it earlier. Because some of them cannot depend on their parents. Some are people that are already they don't even have parents anymore, so they're just trying to help themselves go through school. So how will they get the money to pay over 200%, or sorry, 200% of school fee? This is the matter. I think now should really, really put their strength into condemning this act, because there's no way these students are going to be able to afford this hiking in fee. So I don't know. Henry? What do you think? Do you have any advice or anything you want to say to maybe to our viewers or people that
Before I even talk about
yes.
our solution, the kind of advice, I think this is a general issue that personally when I come across this first, because it was first in the news that some universities are considering halving school fees of their
Yes.
respective institution, but we were thinking that it's not going to turn out this way. And to my surprise, when I come across something last week where even the National Open University of Nigeria that is operating online is arguing about 200%, or let me say 100% increase in their fee. This is a very surprising and shocking to Nigeria, because most of these students, especially those studying in the National Open University, are those students who have already who have some, let me use the word as considered now as the last option. Because if you carry out the statistics, we discover that most of the students, especially young people who are studying national open universities, are people who have been denied admission in conventional universities, and they have no other alternative, but they still want to acquire education, and they turn to national open university as the last education. Because once you have your school fees and other conditions, national open university cannot deny you admission. And student has been doing this over the years to survive. But to my surprise, I woke up and discovered that even the National Open University of Nigeria has also increased its fees to over 100 or 200% increase. And students of the institution are already embarked on protests and are urging the university to reconsider its stance and pay them the school fee. For instance, let me just bring it practically, because I have a friend studying at the institution. A course that was being registered for 2000, and a 3 credit load course that was being registered at 2000 at National Open University is now 5,000. So for that is of course a graduate student. So if for instance in a semester you are offering like 9 or 6 courses, that means the course registration alone in the semester you are going to spend more than 40, 30,000, 40 to 50,000. This is too. We have a semester registration. We have exam registration. We have library registration. We have ID card. We have so many other factors. So you saw that a student who is in a postgraduate diploma, for instance, now that takes just 1 year is spending more than 100,000, in which he used to pay like 50,000 in the past. So I think there is need. We understand the economic situation. We understand what these universities are passing through, but they should also be considered to understand what the students too are passing through. So that even if they are going to add fees, it should be in a way that the student will be able to cope. Because if you add fees in such a way that student or parent cannot afford to pay their school fee, who is going to attend your institution? This is something that the institution needs to work on.
Apparently, NANS already wrote a letter addressed to President Muhammadu Buhari to treat it as urgent. I just hope that President Muhammadu Buhari will be able to treat that letter as urgent and also help them, because to help them in this matter, because there is no way these students can be able to afford up to 200% of their fee. That is why they are in federal universities, not state, not private. They are in that federal university for a reason, because they know that federal universities are always cheaper than other universities. So now with the hike in fee, protests and other things, students will start going for protests. In fact, if there is no student in class, how will lecturers teach?
There's no way.
There is no way a lecturer will come to the class and teach in a class where there are no students. So you see, there will be no lecturer and there will be no students. This matter itself is going to cause so many problems because students will not be going to class and lecturers will not be going to class too. And there will be protests everywhere around Nigeria because if all federal universities, I believe there are federal universities in all the states in Nigeria, in the 36 states.
It's not that at the moment we have some few universities who have
Okay.
issued out the memo that they have
Okay.
increased, which about roughly about
No, I'm talking about federal universities. We have them all in 36 states. Each
yeah,
state
yeah,
has a
yeah. They are
federal
all in
university.
the
Okay.
system. But at the moment, it's about 10 or so of them that have come
Okay, they
out to
have
issue
come
out the
out.
memo. But
Okay.
we have what we have on ground is some of them are still planning to issue out official memos because I
Of
remember
course,
like
if others come out, the rest will
yes,
eventually come out.
I know of the Federal University of Agriculture,
Mm.
which they are commencing exam by next week. So they have no issue on the memo. So their target
Mm.
should be that after exam by the next
Mm.
semester, which will be after election, they are going to issue out an official memo
Mm.
that the school fees will be increased, and this is what and so amount that the student are going to pay.
Oh, here I have students copied their notice to the Minister of Education, the Executive Secretary of NEC, the Senate President, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, the National Security Advisor and Inspector General of Police, among others. Well, students actually wrote letters to all these people telling them to consider this fact. So I hope the letter is going to be treated with urgency and so that Nigerian students in federal universities will be able to go to school and to also afford their fee because that is the only thing that keeps them going. There was a time we talked about bringing back out of school students back to school. So now if the federal university student leaves school, then who are we going to teach? What is our future for tomorrow? Because if they are not in school, there is no future for them.
So let me even comment about the NAS letter to President Muhammadu Buhari because I come across that letter a few days ago and let me boldly say that I don't see, I think NAS should adopt other measures to ensure that federal government respond to its demand this time around because writing to President Muhammadu Buhari this time around asking him to intervene on your behalf to ask the federal universities to pay down the cost or the school fees for students, I don't think see that as yielding any positive result because President Muhammadu Buhari is already fighting, or so his mindset is on delivering a credible election for Nigeria, which he already stated on different forums that he will ensure that he will leave a legacy for Nigeria to leave them with a credible election. So I think that now that we have just few months left before election, I don't see President Muhammadu Buhari intervening in a situation that he don't know how he's going to start or how he's going to end it. His main focus now is on the election because he just have 2 months left to hand over the power to
Yes.
another person that will take over the leadership of this country. So writing to President Buhari is not a good idea per se, but expecting to get any positive result from that particular letter, I don't see any positive result coming out from that letter. Now should go beyond just writing to President Muhammadu Buhari because the emphasis of the Buhari administration now is to make sure that APC either win or at least lay a
Yes.
legacy of ensuring that there's a credible election before 2023 for Nigeria. So now should go beyond that, should at least embark on already some students of National Open University of Nigeria are already protesting. Some of them
Yes.
they are planning on a very large
protest.
big protest, despite the fact that it's an online story that don't even have direct link with the student. They are still organizing a protest against the school fees. So now as a national body, this is a burden, and any Nigerian that know what is happening in the country at the situation should still back them in this kind of front. So we should carry out a protest to ensure that universities, especially some of the federal universities that have issued out official memos to students, telling them about the increased school fees, should reconsider their stand. Even if they are going to increase, it shouldn't be the way they are increasing 200% fee increment. It should be at least, if you increase like 10%, 50%, I think nobody will be talking about this issue of fee increment.
I think NANS also pleaded on the federal government to increase the funding of the educational sector through other means rather than fee hike. I don't. I was confused, and at first I was confused when I heard about this topic. I was like, is it that they want to increase the salaries of their lecturers or what for them to increase the fee? Because what is the main thing there? That why do they want to increase the fee in school fee? What is behind
They-
it? Is it that they want to increase the salaries of lecturers or what?
They-
Because I sat down, I was thinking, I was like, why for what? What is the main idea behind it?
The problem is like for instance, the University of Maiduguri, which is a federal university, instead of the reason of increasing the school fees being the reason that there is rising inflation and the school management could not cope with the running cost, production of things, and so many other factors. So that is to tell you that this fee increment does not have any direct link with the federal government. But the institution felt like what the federal government should have done to increase the funding of universities so that it will be able to cope. The federal government has failed in its responsibility. And I want to take you back. This has been one of the major issues that also has been on strike, which is increased funding for tertiary institutions. Universities themselves are facing so many challenges, and the federal government to increase funding so that the university will take up these challenges. They need funding. And if the federal government fails to provide the money, the university will have to go for another alternative to provide this money. And what alternative does the university have? They don't have any other alternative to increase the fee of the student.
Yes.
And at the end, the student will bear the consequences of this whole issue. That's why everything after we beat around the bush, we still come back and blame federal government for failing to address some of the major challenges, which is funding tertiary education in the country to address some of these issues.
So that is all we have for today's edition of Education Telescope on Leadership TV. The topic was outcry of overhyped tuition fee in some universities in Nigeria. I am your host, Mariam Rabiu, and with me has been Henry Tiohemba, and as analyst. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. See you next week, same day, same time. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.